Thank you all so much for joining us for Cayce's annual plan presentation. We are super excited to have those who are in attendance join us, as well as those who are joining us via Facebook Live and Zoom. Today we are going to talk to you about our annual plan, which is a comprehensive guide into our programs, our policies and procedures, and operations in general. My name is Yvonne DeBean, and I'm the CEO for Cayce Housing. I'm joined today by, on my immediate left, Talisha Stewart, who is our SVP of Resident Strategic Initiatives, also Cynthia Hardy, who is our SVP of Communications, and then on my right, Cindy Herrera, who is our Chief Development Officer. You'll hear from all of us on today. So again, welcome, and we look forward to sharing the progress we've made in the past year and some of what our future plans are for Cayce Housing. So I'll begin with sharing what the agency's mission and vision statements are for Cayce Housing. So our mission is because Cayce Housing cares, we are leveraging the power of housing to build a foundation for individuals and families to thrive. Our vision statement is to create communities of opportunity where individuals and families can live, work, and thrive to their fullest potential. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Talisha Stewart, who is going to talk to you a little bit about our activities timeline for the annual plan.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Bean. So each year, HUD requires that we go through a process where we gain public input as well as input from our residents regarding our annual plan activities for the upcoming fiscal year. We began with our public comment period, which was held February the 18th through April the 4th. Followed by our resident advisory board meeting where we have 7 residents to meet with us and provide valuable input on our plan and some of the things they would like to for Cayce Housing to do over the next fiscal year. Today we are unveiling our plan to the public through our public hearing, followed by we will be having a board meeting on April the 11th. And finally, our plan is due to HUD by April the 14th, which is 75 days before our fiscal year begins. So within our plan, we set several strategic goals that we will accomplish for Cayce Housing over the upcoming fiscal year. Our first goal is centered around our public housing program. We will increase availability of quality affordable housing by improving the quality of our assisted housing. This goal will be achieved by continue public housing high performance status with the public housing assessment strategy of 90% or greater. And also, we will maintain the public housing vacancies at a rate of 2% or less.
So it is my pleasure to provide you all with an update on our public housing program, strategic goal number 1. Cayce is currently a standard performing agency. For our last assessment from HUD, we received a score of 76%. We also currently have an occupancy rate of 95.1% with a vacancy rate of 4.9%. And the vacancy rate is slightly lower than what we anticipated just because of some of the renovations that we've done in the past year, and you're going to hear more about that from Cindy Herrera momentarily. So some of the proposed policy changes for the public housing program includes implementation of new income limits effective June 24, 2023. We'll convert all over-income families to non-public housing, and we anticipate implementation of new non-public housing leases at fair market rents. We'll also provide families with 2 advance notices of that change, beginning as early as 24 months and again at 12 months. We'll also conduct an interim income review only if the annual adjusted income increases or decreases more than 10%. And then our streamlined verification consent form will only be required to sign, will only require a signature of each adult household member. EIV, which is HUD's enterprise, it's income verification is the name of the system. It will not be required at interims, and we're actually, through this policy change, going to allow for the use of other federal programs' income data to verify income. We're going to increase the standard deduction from the currently $400 to $525 for families with a head, a co-head, or a spouse who are elderly, or for a person with a disability. There will also be a policy change for allowances for unreimbursed health and medical care disability expenses, increased to 10%, phased in over 2 years, 5%, 7.5%, then 10%. At present, it's 3%. We're also going to extend a deduction for unreimbursed child care expenses that cause economic hardships for 90 days with extensions as needed. Through a policy change, we're also going to allow self-certification of net assets if estimated to be at or below $50,000. And for eligibility and continued assistance, total assets cannot exceed $100,000, and individuals cannot own real estate suitable for occupancy. And streamlined recertifications will occur every 3 years for households with 90% fixed income.
So our next strategic goal is our resident strategies. We will promote self-sufficiency in assessment development of families and individuals. The objective for this goal is we will increase the percentage of employed persons in assisted housing.
So to provide an update on the resident strategy strategic goal number 2, we've done a lot of work around creating economic and self-sufficiency opportunities for our residents. We've partnered with a myriad of partners to be able to offer virtual and in-person workshops. Some of the workshops include career development and employment, self-sufficiency, health and safety, technology, youth and senior programs, and so much more. We have had at least 3 residents to attend self-sufficiency training opportunities, and those opportunities are ongoing.
Our next goal is fair housing. We will ensure equal opportunity in fair housing and in providing fair housing for all. The objectives for this goal are: we will continue affirmative measures that will facilitate access to suitable living environment regardless of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. We will also continue affirmative measures that will prove acceptable for persons with disabilities regardless of the unit size required.
So to provide you all with a fair housing update for strategic goal number 3, we review on an annual basis, and will continue to do so, our policies and practices as it relates to fair housing regulations. We provide residents with information on their rights under fair housing, and we also have a CH Cares coordinator who handles all of our resident complaints, hearings, and she manages other issues and concerns that may be brought forward by residents. That position and her role has proven extremely helpful in terms of being able to respond to residents' concerns in a timely manner. We'll also ensure that, of course, team members, the staff continues to participate in fair housing training. We make certain of that annually. And we also implement standard operating procedures for grievance hearings that were developed to ensure that residents are prepared and of course, have a fair hearing process.
Our 4th strategic goal is capital assets and repositioning. We will convert 41 public housing units to project-based vouchers. The objective is convert and close out the public housing program.
Our progress on this is over the past year, we completed a $1.2 million renovation program where we renovated the majority of the units at Cayce Housing Authority. We've submitted a conversion application. We propose to finalize that in May of this year. And we hope to secure approval from HUD by December of 2023. This will allow for the conversion of all the public housing units to the Section 8 platform, which will enable us to be able to secure private resources to do additional renovations.
Thank you, Cindy. And that concludes a presentation of our annual plan. At this time, I will turn it over to Cynthia Hardy for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bean, and we're just delighted that you all are joining us today. And if there are any of you all who are joining us on any of our platforms and you would like to list a question, go ahead and do that. We do have our Chief of Staff monitoring those to feed those questions to us should she need to do that. I do want to start with some of the highlights that we talked about a moment ago, Ms. Bean, and I know you spent a lot of time with the new income limits. There is a lot of talk around the whole public housing issue, and when we say to people that public housing is being phased out, sometimes it lands almost like it's new information.
Sure.
But the truth is the federal government has been phasing out public housing for the last 10 years at least. And so here we are, and so you and Cindy talked about transitioning the current units to the new platform of Housing Choice Voucher. Will you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure.
And why that's important?
Sure. And I'll allow Cindy to add some additional information, but one of the things that I want people to know that, the Cayce Housing is like very many housing agencies across the country, in that we have a significant number of deferred maintenance needs and simply don't have the federal resources to be able to address all of those needs. So what we did was we launched a plan that Vision 2030 that would allow us to be able to address those significant needs by partnering with private developers to attract private capital. And so we have already implemented, as Cindy mentioned earlier, a strategy and a plan to address those deferred maintenance needs, and much of the work has already been completed. I think it's important for people to know that even though we're transitioning from a public housing to your question, from a public housing to a Housing Choice Voucher platform, their responsibility in terms of their rent is not going to change. They'll still be paying only 30% of their income.
And that's an important point that needs to be made as the transitions happen, just because, people's natural inclination sometimes is to be nervous about change.
Sure.
And so the more information people have, the better it is for everyone. And so that plus what we're looking at in terms of the units in Cayce that have been renovated, that was very good to hear, Cindy. So can you talk a little bit about the successes of what we've been able to do so far and what you'd like to do in the future with that?
Yeah, we have 12 units that we were unable to renovate because we did not have sufficient funding to do so. So when we do the conversion to the new Section 8 platform, we will be able to access private capital.
I see.
And we'll be able to complete the remaining units. We also have some exterior site work we would like to complete.
Sure.
There's a lot of landscaping and other site work. And we also have an additional unit that we'd like to bring online. There was formerly a small community center, and we're going to bring that back online as an affordable housing unit. So it will actually increase the Cayce units from 41 to 42 units. And all of that will be done once we complete the conversion. I think it's important to keep in mind as well for the residents, as we mentioned, their rent will continue to be the same. The Section 8 platform calculates rent the same as the public housing platform, so residents will continue to pay 30% of their income for rent. And residents retain all of their rights that they have under the public housing program when we go through this conversion, and they gain a new right, which is something called choice mobility.
I see.
Choice mobility will allow them, after 1 year of being under the project-based voucher, they will be able to request a tenant-based voucher and move to any location of their choice. And I think that's very exciting for the residents of Cayce, because the Cayce Housing Authority has never had a Section 8 program. So for the first time, those residents will have the option, if they so choose, to be able to request a tenant-based voucher and move to any location of their choice. And they can do that each year. So that's a new right that's gained through this conversion process that does not currently and did not previously exist under the traditional public housing program.
And that's been popular in other
Yes.
housing organizations across the country too.
Yes,
So it's very
very
nice
much
to be
so.
able to bring that to Cayce.
Yes, it is. Many residents are looking forward to that
Certainly,
opportunity.
because it gives them more flexibility and more options for what they need to do.
Absolutely.
It's good
Absolutely.
all around. Talisha Stewart, our Senior Vice President of Resident Strategic Initiatives, want to ask you about our CH Care Coordinator. Ms. Bean mentioned it a few minutes ago about the significance of that position. And it really has made a difference, particularly for our tenants who have some concerns and want to have it addressed immediately.
Yes, I think it was a great idea for the authority to create that position. It streamlined a lot of the issues that some residents might have said as far as reaching someone to address some of their concerns. Also, it really helped us with communication with our residents. A lot of our other processes that we use when we have our grievance processes, tenant complaints, this person is kind of standing in a gap. They're very impartial, unbiased, and basically they're there on behalf of the resident, but also they're an employee of Columbia Housing as well. So I think that has been a great amenity to the organization.
It's interesting because when people find out about it, here's someone that is an objective ear to whatever the concern is that someone might have, and you've got a committee of people on this side representing the agency, and then a committee of people on this side representing the position of the resident. And so that gives it a fair hearing, and here's this independent person, the CH Cares coordinator, who offers the resolution for that, and then everybody gets up from the table, and it's settled. And that seems like it has been working really well for the 2 years, has it been, Ms. Bean, since you
Yes.
instituted that?
It has. It's been 2 years exactly. She's been a great welcomed addition.
Ms. Bean and Ms. Herrera, from Zoom, there's a question about, is there a time estimate from when the final renovations will be done?
Well, we anticipate that they will probably not be done until about June of 2024. The conversion process should be completed before the end of this year, and then once that's done, we will secure the financing to be able to do the remaining renovations.
I guess nobody wants to wait, and I know
Right.
it's been aggravating and
Understand.
frustrating for you
Sure.
too.
And we wish we had the money to
I
be able to
know.
do them, but we used the funding that we did have available, the remaining public housing funds, and basically exhausted those in what we were able to do.
When you,
And I think
go ahead, Ms.
at this time, I'd like to also thank our residents for
Yes.
being patient with us through this process. We know that there have been moments of inconvenience, but they have patiently awaited for us to be able to make the much-needed improvements. And so we want to thank those who have already experienced renovations for their patience with us throughout this process.
Another question is, the vouchers that will be issued in Cayce, is it just limited to the people who are already living with us?
Yes. In unison.
In unison, and, we recognize that.
We wish we had more to give to everyone.
That's where I was going with that, Ms. Bean. We recognize the housing crisis that we're in right now, and it's really tough, for a lot of people. And I know we do wish we had more inventory.
Sure. Yeah, it's a challenge, unfortunately, not, limited to Cayce or Columbia, but it's a challenge that we're experiencing across the country. There just isn't enough affordable housing available to meet the growing need. But we're certainly excited for the opportunity to do what we can, play our part by creating additional affordable housing and, of course, maintaining the affordable housing that we have that families can be proud to live in.
We've got a question. What would it take to see the kind of construction happening in Columbia? What would it take to see in Cayce the kind of construction that we're seeing in Columbia?
That's a challenge. One of the things that I think is important to remember is that we assess all the properties, and obviously, if we can do renovation, we want to pursue renovation. The units in Columbia were actually built in the early 1980s, and so they're newer stock than some of the housing is that's here in Columbia. And so again, as we assess the properties, we determine if we can do the renovation. To build new affordable housing, there's special funding that we have to secure through South Carolina Housing, and that is very competitive and difficult to do. So we've really focused on where we really need to do new construction and where we can do renovation to maintain the units for another 20 years so that they can be reassessed in the future once again.
Anything you want to add to that, Ms. Bean?
No, I think she answered it well. But it is, I just want to ditto the point that preservation is a part of what we are wanting to accomplish, because the reality is that there just aren't enough resources to be able to tear down and build new. But certainly with some of the improvements and upgrades that we've already made in many of those units and those that are anticipated, it will certainly feel like a new
Feel
unit.
new?
Yes.
We'll feel new?
So we're excited about that. And I think the
Absolutely.
residents will be happy and pleased as well.
Absolutely. You have a project management team that works with the residents in Cayce. Would you like to say anything about that, Mrs. Bain?
Yes, I am sure all of our residents in Cayce have met our team by now. They are very much boots on the ground, knocking on doors. We try to do more than just send out letters or distribute information via email using our website. It's important for us to meet the people where they are and lay hands and touch the people and engage the people. And so the team has done a fantastic job of doing just that from the project management side, which includes Cindy Herrera's team, and also from the resident side, which includes Talicia's team. And so I'm super grateful to have a group of professionals who are passionate about the work that we do and making certain that the needs of our residents are met.
Yes, Talicia, would you like to add anything to that, especially the part about, the being in touch with residents?
Yes, from a resident services side, we have many opportunities that's available for our Cayce residents, from seniors to youth to working eligible adults. So we're always looking for Cayce residents to participate in our programs, but also we want to find ways that we can collaborate with more organizations that serve that central area to provide more services for our residents. So definitely residents, contact us, let us know what programs you want to see, but also please take advantage of some of the opportunities that we provide for you through our programs with resident services.
Go ahead, Mrs. Bean.
I'm sorry.
No.
I do want to take the time, because I think it's a perfect segue, to also encourage those of you who may be listening and not plugged into our website. Please, at your earliest convenience, if you're not already a subscriber, go to our website and sign up for those news updates, the programs that Talicia's talking about in terms of the self-sufficiency opportunities that she and I have both mentioned. A lot of, when those events and activities are held, those things are typically published on our social media platforms, and they're distributed through a mass email on our website. So we do encourage you to sign up. If you haven't, you can sign up with an email address or a phone number, but it allows you to stay connected to Columbia Housing and Cayce Housing activities and events.
We're coming to the end now. We are budgeted for 5:30, and so we're coming toward the end. I think it's important, though, that our audiences always know why the annual plan is important. It's a requirement of the federal government, but it also gives us an opportunity to get out into the community and to talk to people about what they'd like to see in terms of the services that are provided by us, and also help us to determine what the future is going to look like. And so, Ms. Talicia, we'll start with you and then go to Ms. Herrera and then to Ms. Bean, and then we'll come back for the closing comments.
Well, Cynthia, I think you said most of it.
Yes, you did. She did.
But I was going to say, it is a HUD required process that we must go to, and most of all, it is an opportunity for us to gain input from our residents and our community members of some of the planned activities, our policies, our development activities, things that the direction they would like to see Cayce Housing go in. And so that is basically the most important part of this process. It's just
Absolutely.
input from the community.
Input from the community is important. Ms. Herrera?
Yeah, I would just add that it gives us an opportunity to be able to keep the residents and the larger community informed of all of the improvements that we're doing at the properties and how we're trying to assure that the residents in the community of Cayce have quality, affordable housing.
Yes.
And I think all of the ladies have already explained the purpose of the annual plan. And the only thing that I will add is that through this process for us, we want to be transparent. We want to make certain that the community is aware of how we're progressing, how we are accomplishing the strategic goals that were established by the Board of Commissioners. And to that point, we have a 5-member volunteer Board of Commissioners who are equally passionate about the work that we do. And we couldn't move any of these initiatives forward were it not for their unwavering commitment and support. And so we do want to take a moment to also acknowledge them and thank them for the continued support in this process.
Absolutely. And now we'll go ahead and go to our closing comments, and we'll start with you, Ms. Talisha Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Cynthia. I would like to just basically give a charge to the residents of Cayce Housing to definitely reach out to us and participate in the many programs that we're providing for all the families that we serve. We are working with youth. We're providing services for seniors. We're doing programs with Millis Technical College, providing access to free education programs, job training programs for our residents. So please contact us, contact me and others in my department so that you will be able to participate in some of our many services.
Absolutely. And Ms. Herrera, your close, please.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and allowing us the opportunity to share our information for the upcoming year with all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera. And then your close, Mrs. Bean.
Sure. Same. Thank you all again for joining us this evening. I want to also take an opportunity to thank the fantastic team that works for Cayce Housing, that does the work each and every day for showing up for our residents, which is so important. And we want to thank our partners, too, who help us to be able to deliver services beyond housing. We couldn't do that were it not for your willingness to partner with us. And so we're grateful to you as well. And so, again, we thank you for taking the time to learn more about our annual plan and also take a look at how we're progressing and what the future looks like for Cayce Housing. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bean. So on behalf of our Senior Vice President of Resident and Strategic Initiatives, our Chief Development Officer, and our CEO, Yvonne Bean, I'm your host, Cynthia Hardy. We're happy that you all joined us today. We also want to say a very special thank you in terms of credits to Free Thinkers Media Group for helping us to put on the technological package that we did tonight. So thank you guys very much.